Okay, tell me how many times you've heard or read this during recent transfer windows. Barcelona is struggling to register insert name due to the salary cap, and for that they'd have to sell or let go insert name. The latest insert names being Dani Olmo and Ilkay Gündoğan. Did you say every single transfer window? Because you would be correct. But how did they get here? How is Barcelona in this constant financial peril? Well, here's the story of Barcelona's financial crisis. Consider subscribing to our channel. It's free and helps us a ton. Thanks. Where do we even begin with this mess? Some say it was really the pandemic. Some say the malaise had set in a long time ago. But to understand the gravity of their situation, we will need some context. Namely, what kind of club we're talking about. We're talking about FC Barcelona, damn it! According to social media metrics, Barcelona stands as the second most popular club behind Real Madrid. By Forbes' estimation, Barcelona again stands as the third most valuable club behind Real Madrid and Manchester United, valued at $5.6 billion. A club that is 120 plus years old and has won numerous titles and accolades. You get the picture. A club that has employed some of the greatest players this planet has ever seen, like Cruyff, Messi, Iniesta, Xavi, Ronaldinho, just to name a few. The point is, a club of this stature should not be in the kind of crisis they are in right now. But here we are. So what happened? As we said, it's difficult to pinpoint where the decline began. But according to multiple accounts, Neymar's departure in 2017 was the flashpoint where the house of cards ultimately began to fall apart. For a refresher, in the summer of 2017, Neymar departed to PSG for a record fee of 222 million euros. So now you'd be thinking, that's a good thing, right? Being able to sell one of your star players to a club from a different league and pocketing a huge transfer fee in the process can only be beneficial, right? Yet, it proved to be the biggest misstep for Barcelona. First off, MSN or Messi, Suarez, Neymar were instrumental in Barca's success the last few seasons before this. So, breaking up the trio meant finding a like-for-like replacement for Neymar, which in itself was a monumentally difficult task. But the way Barcelona went about it was even more flabbergasting. The windfall from Neymar's departure should have been enough to not only replace him, but strengthen the squad in itself. Instead, Barca splurged a whole lot of cash, almost 400 million euros, to bring in Coutinho, Dembele, Paulinho, Nelson Semedo, etc. That's not where the splurge ended either. They dished another 273 million euros to bring in Antoine Griezmann, Frankie de Jong, Neto, Emerson, etc. in the 2019-20 season. You can see what was going on. When the pandemic hit, it hit Barcelona the hardest, who were left ruing the fact that they had the highest wage bill in all of European football at the time. With La Liga's salary cap tightening, it spelled trouble for Blaugrana because of their inflated wage bill. So much so that Lionel Messi, arguably the greatest player to ever play for Barcelona, and maybe the greatest player ever, had to leave Barcelona in 2021 due to not being able to be registered due to his wages, despite him wanting to take a pay cut. But the issue wasn't just spending all that money, it was how poor their return on investment was. If you look at the names we mentioned, how many really succeeded? While Barca kept spending big, most of their big money players flopped, and the success on the pitch never quite matched the investment in this period. So in a way, the money was spent, but the success did not follow. So it feels that the explanation for Barcelona's current predicament is very straightforward, right? Like, they spent a lot of money, paid high wages, and it bit them in the rear, right? But that's the thing. A club of Barca's pedigree doesn't just fall into financial peril due to some expensive signings not working out. They should be able to afford high wage bills, right? After all, Barca isn't just any club, it's a behemoth of a brand. They rake in so much in earnings. So what else happened? Let's dig a little deeper. The year is 2014. Sandro Rosell has just resigned as president of Barcelona owing to a huge controversy and lawsuit of financial malpractice, namely misappropriation of funds surrounding Neymar's transfer from Santos, which in itself is a story for a different time. In comes the new Barca president, Josep Maria Bartomeu. 2015 saw Barca scaling new heights with their second ever continental treble under Luis Enrique. But this is where things started going haywire. First, the players we mentioned before were not the only ones brought to Camp Nou on inflated fees and wages. That had been happening since 2015. Players like Arda Turan, Alex Vidal, Lucas Digne, etc. were all brought in for big money, yet almost none of them proved to be long-term solutions, meaning the recruitment strategy had been bad for quite some time even before Neymar's departure. Neymar was just the straw that broke the camel's back. During this time, they also offered bumper new contracts to the likes of Jordi Alba, Sergio Busquets, Gerard Piqué and Luis Suarez. But if the performances on the field were diabolical, off the field, in the boardrooms, things were looking as dire, if not more. For example, Bartomeu tried renegotiating their lucrative deal with Qatar Airways after their 4-year association in hopes of an even bigger deal. The talks broke down, and the association with Qatar Airways ended. But Barcelona's woes were not just financial either. Remember what we mentioned about the former president Sandro Rosell's reason for resignation? In 2015, a Spanish judge ordered Barcelona's president, Josep Bartomeu, his predecessor, Sandro Rosell, and the club to stand trial on charges they committed tax fraud in signing of Neymar. Barca eventually agreed to pay 5.5 million euros to the Spanish authorities to settle the tax fraud case. Barcelona's image took a massive hit due to this. During Bartomeu's final years, he also shared sour relationships with many high-profile Barca players, the worst being with Lionel Messi. The Argentine criticized Bartomeu through an interview for Goal.com, complaining that the former Barcelona president had lied to him on numerous occasions. In 2021, Bartomeu was embroiled in Barca Gate, an investigation in which the administration of Bartomeu was accused of secretly paying PR company i3 Ventures to do online work for the club. Bartomeu, along with 3 others, Chief Executive Officer of the club, Oscar Grau, former advisor to the presidency, Juan Masferrer, and head legal counsel, Roman Gomez Ponte, were arrested as part of a police investigation into the matter. So you can see how dire the situation became for Barcelona. Barca Gate in itself was a huge scandal, which is again a story for another time. So you can see how dire the situation became for Barcelona. Bartomeu's presidential reign was riddled with overinflated player acquisitions and wages, poor club-player relationships, financial mismanagement, and corruption allegations. When Joan Laporta returned to take over the club reins, Barcelona's debt was monstrous. So, when Laporta took over, the club was in financial dire straits. The close of 2020-21 season saw Barcelona being in a financial hole, with revenue being 631 million euros against an expenditure of 1.1 billion euros. By their own estimates, they were 26% below the projected income due to the impact on and off the field, particularly the pandemic. The club's financial report in 2021 also revealed that the club was in debt reaching 1.2 billion euros, along with short-term debt of roughly 730 million euros. They owed a total of 126 million euros to other clubs, stemming from several transfer deals that the club had conducted in recent years. So while previously the large expenditure, especially on exorbitant transfer fees and huge wages, could be covered by insane income that the club had, the combination of a lack of success on the field, the pandemic, and loans taken from various means meant the income plummeted and their expenditure became untenable. La Liga's strict salary cap meant Barcelona were left in a state where they could not even register their own players who were re-signing, let alone new signings. In 2021, how dire their financial situation was left bare for all to see, as they had to let go of Lionel Messi, whose contract expired, and they were unable to offer a new contract because of his large wages. Despite Messi agreeing to a pay cut, Barcelona were unable to keep him. Messi left after 16 years of serving the club. They also loaned Griezmann out to Atletico Madrid, all to alleviate the economic pressure. Despite big names and high-wage earners like Messi, Suarez and Griezmann leaving, Barcelona's financial situation did not improve, who could barely register new players. Despite the dire economic situation, Barcelona did not stop spending. The 2022-23 season saw them go ahead and spend over 150 million euros to bring in players like Lewandowski, Rafinha and Jules Koundé, despite the wage cap constraints. So the Catalan club needed something to ease the economic pressure on them and to help register these players. That's where the now infamous economic levers came in. What are those economic levers, you ask? The term economic lever describes a financial action taken in order to alleviate the restrictions brought about by the club's debt situation. In short, these levers meant selling some of the club's assets to raise funds. Barcelona officials voted at an EGM in June 2022 to permit the sale of a portion of the club's TV rights and part of licensing and merchandising to reduce their huge debt and raise enough funds to spend on buying new players. The club first sold 10% to a global investment firm named Sixth Street and brought in around 267 million euros. Later, the firm increased their stake by a further 15%, which fetched Barcelona an additional 315 million euros. All in all, Laporta raised a total of 582 million euros by selling 25% of the club's La Liga TV rights for the next 25 years to the Sixth Street. Barcelona also sold 24.5% of Barca Studios to Socio.com for 100 million euros. They also received the go-ahead to sell 49.9% of BLM, or Barcelona Licensing and Merchandising. The pulling of these economic levers in itself became a meme, as Barcelona was called FC Palancas or Levers FC by a lot of football fans. But even more importantly, these steps were side-eyed by the wider fan base because it was betting their future to make some short-term gains. So, have the levers helped? Not really. The club is still in financial turmoil. Marc Syria, a financial advisor who plans to run for Barca presidency in the next election, says that the club is still in a very serious situation because costs still outstrip revenue, while the club's debts is in billions. Per Barca's official accounts for the year ending June 30, 2023, they have liabilities totaling 2.7 billion euros, which includes short and long-term debt as well as the financing for the new stadium. Despite all these financial constraints and constantly falling afoul the wage cap set by La Liga, Barcelona has kept spending money to bring in new faces, the latest being Dani Olmo for around 60 million euros. So, where does Barcelona go from here? Well, hopefully into a more financially secure future. But the way the club politics works, it seems that their financial situation is going to last a long time. Thank you for watching. Like if you liked it, share if you find it worthy, and subscribe for more content like this. This is Salty Football.